Today, I'm excited because I have a friend and someone who is the CEO of a brand new company that literally the reason for it forming is because of this pandemic that we're dealing with right now. And it's exciting, but at the same time, very, for me at least, very unknown. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you, Benny. I'm excited to be here.
And it's especially after the what you were at last week. I'm really excited to hear about some of the things that you had to say. So, first of all, if you want to introduce yourself and to give a little bit of a background on Vital Circle.
Great. So Amanda Schleede, as Benny said, I'm the CEO of Vital Circle. Vital Circle is a startup. We were founded in April of this year. As I always jokingly say, COVID's also a startup, so we're right in line with it. But Vital Circle itself is a daily symptom tracking and contact tracing application. It's web-based, and it's really being focused on large events, employers and schools for use. We're really industry agnostic, easy to implement and roll out to your staff or group of participants or population. And then we also have included in that is contact tracing, and what we focus on is Bluetooth contact tracing.
I've heard so many different names about COVID, especially when the president talks, but that's a new one, the startup virus.
Yeah, that could be a new one. We're gonna trademark that, Benny.
So last week, you and I talked and texted with each other a couple different times because I was just curious about how that whole experience was. Tell us about the first big event that that you had as a client.
Yeah, so exciting. Being a new startup, as I said, being women owned, headquartered here in Chicago, super exciting and all of that. We actually won the health monitoring work with the Republican National Convention for their on-site meetings that they had in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so I'm super excited that we were able to, work with the RNC and then just the local health officials to build a robust health monitoring program. So we actually had all of the delegates and attendees doing daily symptom tracking. And we also did contact tracing while they were on site in Charlotte, North Carolina, so that, we can mitigate the risk with regard to any COVID exposure that anybody had.
Yeah, I could only imagine how that was. And I say that because of the current state that we're in, the climate, the polarizing climate that we're in. But, with this going back to work, returning to the office and all this stuff that's going on, contact tracing is a term that's been used all the time. I feel like I hear it at least once a day. I don't know that I fully understand exactly what that means. So if you could explain what contact tracing mean and what that means for employers.
Right. So, I think there's really three different ways of looking at contact tracing. So, with the pandemic, we've actually, started a whole new profession of contact tracers. So these are human beings who are calling human beings who have now tested positive for COVID and really running through their, where have you been over the last, say, 5 to 14 days. So that's one aspect that's a human to human interaction. There's pluses and minuses to it. I jokingly always say, I know I went to Whole Foods last week, but I don't remember what day it was type thing. So there's the margin of error that happens there. The other option you have is GPS tracking. And so, typically GPS tracking happens by using your phone. And I always say that, I feel like your phone is the most invasive thing, or, from a personal security or personal knowledge of what you're doing of anything that we could be using. And there's other symptom trackers that are out there using GPS.
When you say GPS, Amanda, especially
Uh-huh.
from an employer standpoint, you're saying like if it's an employer provided device that's GPS enabled, you'll be tracked no matter whether you're at work or outside of work, right?
Exactly. So it could be a separate device that your employer could provide to you, that you would wear, or it actually could be just connected up to your cell phone, because most people have smartphones now these days. But we looked at the option of GPS and Bluetooth, and we landed on the Bluetooth side of it, and I'll tell you why. So Bluetooth for us was, less invasive into somebody's personal, where they're going, what they're doing. And our whole aspect and how we view contact tracing is that I really don't care where the contact happened. I don't care if the contact happened at a bar, if it had happened at a casino. What I want to know is that the contact did happen. And so I want to know, if Benny, you and I are out having drinks, outside social distancing drinks, but we happen to come into 4 feet of connection and for a time of 15 minutes or more, then that's a significant interaction that if one of us became positive, that we would want to be able to tell the other person or be able to notify that other person. And so for us, we really focused on doing the Bluetooth technology and contact tracing, because the other thing is when you rely on somebody having their cell phone on, quite honestly, you could just have that one employee who doesn't believe in contact tracing and they turn their Bluetooth off on their cell phone and they're not being traced. So, as soon as they walk into the office, they could turn their Bluetooth off and you're not going to know what kind of interactions they've had with other people in your work environment.
Got it. And then when you talk about like, let's say like I'm just saying like a conference like the RNC, when people come in, right? Because like from the outside, I think you said they get tested on like as soon as they arrive and then they get the device right away. Is that
Right. So yeah, so we had a really robust, health plan that we established this with the RNC. We also, the RNC had developed it along with the local health officials. And so really the plan was that everybody had to do it before coming to the RNC, had to do a COVID test 7 days prior. And so basically, if you didn't pass that test, obviously, you got a positive result. You weren't coming to the convention in North Carolina. But if you were obviously negative and you came to the event, as soon as you arrived at the hotel, really what happened is that people got out of the cars and they were tested right away. And so we did a secondary, level of screening there. At that point was also when they picked up credentials and they also got their contact tracer. And so I actually have an example. This is the contact tracer that we used. It's about the size of an Apple watch face. It weighs 12 grams. So it's really, non-intrusive into, a daily life. And then what happened is that those contact tracers, as people put them on, we were, then recording any interaction that they had with another contact tracer. So basically what happens is with the Bluetooth contact tracers, I've got 2 tracers here. It's recording the contact that's happening between these 2 devices it's not recording where that contact has happened. Meaning like, was it at, the Buffalo Wild Wings or was it in the hotel lobby? It was just recording the date, the time, the duration, and the approximate distance between the devices.
Got it. Okay. So if, let's say if I know there are some companies that have their own ways of doing contact tracing right now, not as high tech as this, but so if you're a company and if you mandate everyone to wear this, it's only keeping track of the employees that are coming in contact with each other, right? Not
right. It's recording any of those 2 devices. So even if you had 10 employers in Chicago who are using these same devices, anytime that an employee from one employer to the other came in contact with those devices, that's what it would record. So it's only recording the device to device contact.
Got it.
And it's recording the day of the contact, the approximate distance, and the duration.
Okay. And so what do you think is you're an expert in this whole field right now, at least as much of an expert as you can be, like, what do you think the concept of contact tracing, like, what do you think it's going to be like in the next 3 months, 6 months, a year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be one of the things that we're going to need to, again, as I say, the new normal, but it's going to be the new normal of getting back into large groups and being able to identify those people that you had, a significant amount of interaction with, so that, if something happens or, if somebody becomes COVID positive, that you are able to then notify the other individual. And so really it's going to become part of, I think, our daily lives. And so really it's just deciding, from an employer standpoint or a large group standpoint, if you're an events person putting, people together to have large events, how do you want to handle and mitigate that risk with regard to the connections that are going to occur?
Got it. Okay. I think it's great what you guys are doing. And it's like, it's exciting because it's new. I hope to God we figure something out to solve all this stuff so that we can go back to life. But I really appreciate you talking about this. And I'm going to put your contact information on the post on LinkedIn so that if people have questions, they can reach out to you, because you not only not only do you do the actual events, but you also do just for regular companies too, right?
Right. Employers, schools. I mean, we're industry agnostic, manufacturing, anybody who really wants to focus on mitigating the risk of, COVID-19 exposure of their employees.
Got it. Well, thanks a lot, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks.